Hey, this is Karen Coach's Corner Chats, and on the podcast today, I've got Brian Hurley. Brian, where are you at and what you up to?
Well, thank you, Karen, for allowing me to be on your podcast. I appreciate this opportunity that you have given me. I am currently out of Houston, Texas. I am currently coaching a U17 girls club team. We are in Division One, which is also called the Dynamo Dash League here in Houston. And we are currently in first place, hoping to get promoted to the next league, which is the State Classic League.
So Houston, Texas. So you just do you just deal with all those ice storms in the last 2-3 weeks?
We did definitely. It was something new that we here in Houston really haven't experienced much of, especially with all the power outages, the freezing, weather. I mean, I had icicles on my roof that were 12 inches long that I've never seen in my life. So it was quite an experience.
So it sounds like you have a very talented group of young ladies on your club team.
I do. So when I first started coaching, I was coaching 3-year-olds. My son wanted to play, and my wife asked me, "Hey, I'm going to sign him up for club soccer, or is that something you're interested in coaching him on, or what?" And I thought about it for a little bit, and I said, "You know what? I want to coach him." And the reason why I wanted to coach him is just because I wanted to, try to teach him correct. Try to teach him some of the right stuff. I've been playing since I was 6. I'm 40 years old now, and I just wanted to give him some of my experience that I had that I've had through the years. So we started it. It was 3 aside. There were six players on the team, 2 girls and 4 boys, and it was a blast. 3-on-3 with 2 little goals, and I was able to be on the field and coaching them, kind of directing them, setting them in certain places. So it was a blast. And that's where it all started. As that progressed, I have an older daughter who wasn't interested in playing. I tried to get her to play. She didn't want anything to do with soccer. But then after she saw how much fun her brother was having, she was like, "Hey, Dad, I want to sign up." So now she joined the team. We're a little bit older now, and at that point, I have 3 girls, and the rest were boys, and we're playing co-ed. And one of the girls that I started with 3 years old, she had started. She joined that team also, so she had been with me during that time. So we were doing co-ed for a while until they got to an age where I had to split them up, and I debated. What do I do? Do I have 2 teams? Do I, stay with one and give, coach another, to coach the other girls? But I decided I want to still coach my kids. I still want to coach the girls, and I still want to coach my son. So I started with 2 teams, and that was a little bit challenging of how the logistics were going to go, as far as how I was going to hold practices. But what I did, I just combined the practices, since there was only about 7 of them on each team. I just had 14 players and combined boys and girls, and that's how we trained. Over the year, as the seasons progressed, I kept the same girls. I retained those girls. But as far as the boys go, I always had new boys. Every fall and spring season were new boys except for my son. And so and these boys had never played before. So I'm basically the base over and over again. With the girls, doing more advanced. So I eventually realized it wasn't that fair for my son to just went over the basics. Buddy that had a 2 team willing to sign on his team. So that's what I did. I put on his team, concentrate on girls. And so when you say the team is experienced, yes, they are, because a lot of them they're 14, 15, and a couple of 16, and half of the team I've coached since they were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and that's been a blast, because just to see how far they've developed, how far they've come, how much they've learned, and see them to grow into these young women, and the skill that they have has just been a journey for me that's second to none. I'm just so honored to have that opportunity to do that.
you almost informally created your own little mini academy. They've come from like the little tiny things and candy league and all that stuff, and they've just kind of built up and built up. What was the I thought it was cool that you kept the groups together. What was the dynamic like when it was boys and girls, or was that the age where they were like, there, I don't see a difference? Or do you think it helped the girls in terms of their development having to play against boys?
I think it did help the girls play against boys. I mean, at the time, they really didn't see, there wasn't much of a difference because they were still kind of young, 6, 7, 8 years old. But it did help a little bit with their physicalness, I guess, and not being timid or shy to go against boys, because, they, the I guess, stereotype is, girls play against girls, boys against boys, but it was, I think for them it was like just a barrier that they broke through, that they didn't even bother them. And it's helped as they grow, because now that they're playing against other girls, I mean, they are more physical, and it's helped them, I think, develop a little bit better, a little bit more, I guess, more quicker. Let's put it that way.
The other thing I thought was interesting is you said that the girls that you picked up or worked with as younger kind of stayed as a core group, but the boys, there was a lot of kind of turnover. What kind of things do you think maybe attributed to that, kind of the difference between the two, if any?
You know, it's hard. It's hard to say, because I mean, there are so many sports, and you know, I can't say that it's just the boys were doing other stuff other than soccer and the girls weren't, because the girls were still involved in other sports as well. They were involved in dance, they're involved in volleyball, they're involved in just a dynamic very of sports. It was just, they wanted to keep playing it and they wanted to stick with it, and they're still sticking with it. And whereas the boys, it's just maybe they just didn't enjoy it as much just because they're starting out. Maybe their parents just put them in there saying, "Hey, this is something for you to do," and they just didn't like it.
As the dynamics of coaching your own kids, as rewarding as it is, there's got to be some like, is there drawbacks to it? Like I've done the same thing. I have 3 kids. I've coached them, and there's been times where we've gotten to a line like where now my daughter plays for someone else because there was too much. It wasn't coach player anymore. It was dad getting on daughter kind of thing. How do you balance that kind of between coach and dad?
I've heard a lot of stories like that, and at one point it was kind of scaring me because I still wanted to coach my daughter, but so I was hoping that it wouldn't come to that, and it hasn't. And I think the reason why it hasn't is because I'm talking to her all the time. When we're coming to and from practice, to and from games, I'm giving her my understanding of the game, and breaking it all down, and analyzing every little thing that happened. And she's picking it all up, and she's seeing, and realizing, hey, maybe my dad does know what he's talking about. Maybe I saw that, and I don't want to say like, but it's so she sees that. So it would be kind of like, I always tell her, I was like, you'd be dumb not to listen to me. I'm telling you exactly what it is. So, for you to go listen to someone else, I'm showing you. And she sees it. And yeah, there are times when she has to, where she kind of pulls away, or stops listening to me at times, because, maybe she just doesn't want to hear it because, she's a teenager. But eventually she comes back and realize because then I have to give her that "I told you so" type of comment. But no, it hasn't been as challenging as as I've heard from other coaches that coach their children. And I'm fortunate that it's been like that. And I try not to, I may yell at her a little bit, more than other players because she's my daughter. But I try not to show her any type of favoritism or anything. I mean, if you come to my team, you wouldn't even know she's my daughter just based on the way I treat everyone, the same. I look at, honestly, I look at all of my players as my daughters. That's how I look, because I'm willing to do whatever I can to help them, to develop them, to get them to the next level. Whatever I can do, whatever they need, any time of the day, I'm available to them.
So is the age group that you have them now, is that a high school age? So where
It
does
is.
high school occur in Texas for girls?
So high school soccer starts. They start getting together around December time, and then in the January is the preseason, and then on to the games. Currently from February, March, April.
So are the girls
Um,
on your team right now, are they just choosing to play club versus playing high school?
no, the most of them are the ones that are age. So I do have a range of girls. Yes, I have they're 2004, but I only have three 2004 players. The rest are 2005, 2006, and a couple 2007s.
Oh, wow.
So most of them are freshmen and sophomore, and they are playing high school soccer at this time. And at the same time, we are playing club. So that's a challenge that I have to deal with between high school and club and balance that because high school, they practice 5 days a week, which I wish I had 5 days a week to practice with them. And then they have games. And so I have to figure out a time when, I wish the club didn't have a spring season, honestly, because I think it's a lot of load to put on the players where they're just constantly playing and practicing and going to games. And it's just a heavy load. At the same time, I can't really practice with them like I could in the fall when we had, two practices a week. So basically what we did, the only day available was Sundays where nothing was going on. So I had three practices before our first game, and we just did an hour and a half practice, and then now we just show up to our games and play. And it's been working okay for now, but the hard part was, like you had mentioned at the beginning, was the freeze. The freeze, took out all school
Oh, yeah.
activity for a whole week. So the past 2 weeks they've been playing catch up, and they've been having 3 games a week of high school plus our club game, which is 4 games, and then practices in between, for high school. So for the past 2 weeks they may have 8 games in 13 days, which is a lot of load.
Holy moly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there communication between you and the high school coaches at all about like, hey, what things are you doing? What am I doing? So you kind of can take care of that load a little bit?
Not really. I tried to not put myself in the high school scene as much. I will tweak certain things. Like I tried tweeting out because I do know some coaches follow me of my players. Just say, hey, it's a heavy load. Can you maybe put in some periodization into your training or whatnot? Just hopefully they see it, and hopefully it'll uh, uh, put something in their mind to maybe just do a heavy or light load of practice or no practice at all because of so many games. Just say, let's just do some walkthroughs, and that's what I had to do on some of my practices because even though it was Sunday, I just did walkthroughs. And I told them, I was like, I know some of y'all are injured, some of y'all are trying to heal. I'm not trying to put more on you. We're just going to walk through some stuff just to get back into the mode of club soccer again and what we're trying to do because they'll play different positions in high school. They have a different type of tactical stuff that they do, whereas I just wanted to get them back on the same page for club.
It's an interesting dynamic to have that beyond just the tactics and dealing with that is now, like you said, the periodization thing, which is becoming a buzzword, is people I think are becoming hopefully more and more aware of that constantly pounding these kids over a period of time can wear them down. The other cool thing you mentioned earlier was you got into the coaching with your son when he was 3, and it was kind of your wife's impetus of like, hey, would you like to coach him? You said you played a lot and have some experience. Was coaching something that you kind of had on your radar, or was that kind of the spark that kind of brought you to the point that you're at now?
At one point, I'm sure when I was in my youth or and growing up, I think I did have an idea that I may want to coach one time, but I never really thought, oh, I'm going to get married and have kids and I'm going to coach them. I have a younger brother, and so when I was 13 or 14, I was helping train their team a little bit as best as I could. But when I started playing soccer, my dad was my coach, and the way that worked was my sister, who is older than me, she brought home a flyer one day from elementary school talking about, hey, join the soccer team. And my dad was totally against it. Soccer, no, we're not doing soccer. We hate soccer. And I don't know, he was, more of a football, baseball type of guy. And my mom's like, no, I'm going to sign her up if she wants to play. So she signed her up, and, they were going to games. My dad went to one of her games to support her, and he instantly fell in love with the game. I mean, like, completely fell in love with the game, so much where he started reading books, learning as much as he could about the game, decided to coach and put me on the team. I had no idea what soccer was. I mean, who knows how I would play. He just started a team, and the rest was history. I mean, we became basically soccer was our religion growing up. I mean, that's all we did, from going to tournaments, practice. I mean, it was year-round soccer. And my dad also coached an older team, about 4 or 5 years older than me, because they had some inner politics within the team. My dad said, well, I'll coach them. So he was coaching that team and my team. And I looked up to that team, like, because they were just so much bigger and old and faster. And I'm like, man, they're so great. I want to play on that team. But he never put me on that team. But I mentioned that team because what struck me was, when my dad passed about 9 years ago, a lot of those players from that older team came to his funeral, and they presented him with this plaque. And I remember looking at that plaque, and what the plaque said was, Coach Hurley, thank you for helping us become the men that we are today. And that hit me so hard, because I looked at it, it's like, that's why I want to coach. That's why I'm still coaching these girls. That's why I still want to do this, because of the impact that coaching has on the youth. And if I can have just a little bit of impact, then it would be, I would feel like, hey, that's a great fulfillment. That's just great. And that's what got me into it. My wife said, do you want to coach? Because that experience of my dad coaching me, I wanted to also give to my son, and now I'm giving it to my daughter as well.
That's super powerful, and just the word impact that I keep kind of hearing. And then also tying back to something you said earlier about that you've been so excited with the girls that they're becoming these awesome young women, which was what it sounds like your dad had that impact on them as becoming men that are now doing great things, as adults and what have you. And I'm sure that's something when people say, well, what impact did you make? Well, you're like, just wait 10 years and see what these girls are doing. They're going to be doing amazing things, maybe on the soccer field, but I know for sure off the field, they're going to be doing some awesome stuff as well.
Correct. And I look at it when I'm coaching them. It's not just about teaching them how to kick the ball or trap the ball. It's teaching them how to be, teammates. It's teaching them how to have a good work ethic that goes past the soccer field. It can go into their school life, into college life, into their careers and their family life. It's creating this structure where they can be successful no matter what they set their minds to. But soccer will give them that, maybe that self-esteem or that encouragement to say, hey, I can accomplish this here. Maybe if I apply the same principles of hard work and just doing it to my personal life, I'll be successful in that as well.
So true. It's so awesome to hear that. The other thing that I loved was that your dad sounded like he just like wasn't a constant learner of the game. Like he was reading books, like you said, and I'm sure as videos became more and more prevalent and stuff. Is that something that you also kind of put into place? Are you a big learner of the game?
I try to learn as much as I can. Um, when I first started coaching, I thought, okay, I've played for so many years. I know the game. I can coach it, no problem. And I started, doing it. Okay, it's fine. But then I went to the E course when U.S. Soccer had their E course, and it was just for the weekend. But I learned a lot, and I'm like, wow, how this, I can have a theme of soccer. Like, hey, we're instead of doing like one drill dribbling, one drill shooting, one drill passing, let's have a theme. Okay, hey, today we're just going to go over passing. Today, and then have little drills that combine into that one theme, and it was just so mind opening that I just applied it instantly. But then I was like, I want to do the D course. So I did the D course, and the D course almost turned me off from coaching altogether because maybe it was the instructor or what, but it was just so stressful. And to me, soccer shouldn't be stressful. And that was the most stress I've ever felt dealing with anything of soccer. And I remember coming home and telling my wife, if I ever say I want to do another course, just tell me, no, because I can't do this again. But of course, after I got my D license, I set myself on the C, and I did that, and I don't regret one bit. The C was just phenomenal, and the way I look at it is, if I'm not learning, how can how can my players learn? If I'm not developing myself, I can't develop my players. So I always want to try to learn as much as I can, uh, so that I can apply it to my players so that they can grow in that same manner.
I think it's interesting your comment about even the instructor within a course. I think it's the same within teams. Like you hear about, if depending on who's coaching what group. Like I've talked about it with some players before. It's like, yeah, it's great to go to a club that's renowned for being really good, but if you don't get the right coach in that mix, then the experience isn't as great. So I think it's an interesting point you make that depending on who your instructor is and how they kind of let things go and whatever. But I love the idea that you said, like soccer, like we're doing this, we're coaching, these kids are playing because they enjoy playing the game. And even your story earlier of looking up to that older team, like, oh my gosh, like how cool are they? They run so fast, they're so physical, the ball gets hit so hard. That's what we're trying to like put into these, into these younger players and what have you. Even at the coaches love this game. We want to go to courses and get that passion kind of built up even more.
Oh, I agree, and I mean, and what I tell my players, hey, this is a game. It's supposed to be fun. You know, whether you're winning or losing, yeah, losing's never fun, but you can make it fun, and the learning process is fun because it's just a game. When all is said and done, it's a game, and we have to look at it. And I know it's hard, especially for the parents that sitting on the sidelines, to look at it as a game. But I just have to keep the girls focused, let them know, hey, just go out there, have fun, but use what you've learned, and everything will be all right. Everything will take care of itself.
Is has your time in Houston, are you a born and raised Houstonian, or where were you before getting to Houston, or what's it kind of a timeline of that?
So yes, I was born and raised in Houston. I lived all through, since till I was 19 in the Houston area. I joined the Navy at 19, went overseas, was on a ship for 4 years, met my wife who was also in the Navy, and then I got out to be a civilian, and she had orders to Hawaii, so we lived in Hawaii for a few years, and then we eventually moved back here to Houston, and started our family.
That's awesome. Well, mass respect for your time for protecting the country and what have you. Um, so the cool thing I love about that is I heard you say that the girls league is the Dynamo League. So I'm assuming that's connected somehow to is that connected to the MLS team, or is that just a like
I think it's more of they're using the name, the Dynamo Dash League. Um, I don't believe it's any affiliation with the MLS other than just the namesake of it. But I mean, we do have locally a Dash Youth and a Dynamo Youth soccer club. It's not part of their academy. It's just like again the namesake, but they do have a separate academy, like the girls' academy and the boys' academy as well.
nice? Is your projection, so as you keep moving up, so you're at your C license, is there aspirations to continue on in the licensing thing? Are there asks because at some point these girls are going to kind of age out and go into the college level and all that. Are there aspirations for you to maybe jump from club to high school to maybe start looking at the college level? Or are there any aspirations for you in that kind of realm?
Definitely. I want to keep pursuing the licenses. as long as they'll accept me into the next licenses. I know there's an application process that you have to go through, but yeah, as long as I can get in those, I want to keep pursuing. I'm going to keep applying and keep going until they let me in. I'll beat down the door, until they let me in, because I want to learn. I want to get better, because I want to keep coaching. Whether it's one day having my own club, starting that, or going into coaching college. I would love to coach the women's college soccer. I mean, especially since I'm at this age group now, and most of them are going to be graduating, in the next few years. I would love to continue that. That's doing this eventually for a living. I would love to do that. That'd be just a dream job.
Yeah, I think the cool thing is I can hear like this the energy and excitement. Just even when I brought that up, you were like, "Yeah, I want to keep crushing this. I want to keep learning, but I want to keep taking like getting more challenges coaching wise. Like, okay, you're clearly being successful at the club level with your group now, moving forward." And now maybe you say like, "What's the next challenge that I can take on?" And maybe it's a college thing or something like that, which I think is awesome.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. I mean, I always want to challenge myself. I look at soccer. I always tell my girls, what is soccer? I ask them, what is soccer? And they know the answer. It's a thinking game, because you constantly have to be thinking when you're playing this game. And I look at it as a chess match as well. Now, from the coaching, I've played it, but from a coaching standpoint, I get I get more tired coaching than I ever had playing. And the reason why is because I'm in my mind, I'm playing all 11 positions at the same time, and trying to coordinate that, and then see what the other team is doing and strategizing and moving. And so it's all happening in my mind, and it's draining, but it's just a rush that I can't describe. And so if I can keep getting better at that and learning that, more of a skill set, like a chess match, I mean, that I'm all about it.
Now, is your wife a soccer like into it, or is she just like, I'll let you deal with that. I'll take care of some other things.
Correct. She didn't really have she didn't know what she was getting into when she married me, as far as the the
I was
soccer
gonna
life. So yeah, she lets me know, but no, she's super supportive, and she's feels, I think my energy goes, flows off of me onto her, because she feels it too, and she's just as much involved and into it, and helps when she can. But yeah, she understands that we are a soccer family, and that's what we're about.
and I know before we got on here, you said you had 5 kids.
Mhm.
Um, are all the is this your oldest that you're coaching now? So then I'm wondering, do the other ones play as well?
So yes, I am coaching my oldest. So my son, who's just a couple years younger than her, who I started coaching originally at 3, he played for a few years, and then he has some issues with his knee, where he kind of took some time off to recover that. But then eventually his team, kind of disbanded. So we're going to be putting him in another club team, and then he'll be starting high school next year, and he'll continue playing. But for me, I'm left-footed. I'm left-handed also, but growing up, in the '80s, left-footed, that was kind of like a phenomenon. Not too many people were playing soccer lefties, and I could see how it helped me somewhat get some kind of an advantage, because everyone was going right, I was going left, and so I was telling my wife, I need a lefty. We got to have a lefty as a kid. We got to have, and the fifth kid turned out to be a lefty. So he's he was 2 years old. He's 5 now, but at 2 years old, he's kicking left foot. I'm just like so tickled about it. I'm like, yes, we're definitely putting him in. Now, how I'm gonna go if I do coach him, how I'm gonna go to going from adult or almost adult women to coaching back to 6 7, that'll be a different change. But I'm up for that challenge again.
That's really cool too, because I think it'll be awesome because you've already done it before. So I think you know some of the pitfalls of dealing with that age group a little bit from and what you've seen and what worked with like your daughter's group and going through it from the younger ages with a boys group that was kind of like, like you said, I kept having new kids come in and stuff. So I think that's cool that you have that to fall back on. Whereas the first time you're like, I'm just trying to figure this out, kind of like your dad. when he first hopped into the mix, uh, type of thing. The cool thing too is them. You talked about it, being able to look up to that older group. Now your younger children are looking up to those older ones and looking at how much fun they have, and I'm sure they're on the sidelines at games and tournaments and stuff, and like experiencing the whole thing. And they have to be like, that's slowly like just pulling them in. Like, I want to be a part of this.
I think it is. I believe. I mean, they've had made comments about it in the past. So yeah, they definitely see the energy that comes with the game of soccer. They've seen their sister play and how much praise she gets, and the rest of the team, and the cheering that goes on. So I think it all adds to that wanted to keep doing it and maybe get involved in that.
That's so stinking cool. So what does the summer look like in world in terms of the club? Like, when does your club season end? And like, is there a downtime, or is it kind of a 365 type of experience?
So normally, the way it would work is our spring would end for club like around April, and then we would maybe go to a tournament at that, a little after that, and then for the summer we're off until we start back up in end of July, beginning of August. Now during the summer I would hold training for whoever wants to come, maybe once a week, just to get them going. This year may be a little bit different, just because now that we're a little bit older, I got juniors on the team that are looking hopefully to play in college. I want to do more tournaments, even if they're showcase tournaments, or tournaments where college coaches come out to. So I may do more of those closer to the beginning of summer. I mean, our summer is here in Houston kind of starts in May. That's how hot it gets. But that's what we're looking forward to do, and then just keep trying to do some kind of team practices and keep the team together, so that when we do start again for fall, we're ready to go.
That's an interesting thing I didn't even think about, was the temperature. Like in Ohio, we actually have to start later with our club season because of cold and snow and all that stuff, and we go into like June. Versus you're like, dude, if we play in June, you're gonna have a bunch of like, it's scorching out there.
It is scorching, especially when we start our just the fall season, because the first game is normally like the first week of September. And I mean, it's just so hot, and I mean, constant water breaks. And we always make fun, watching, let's say the Premier League, and it's 75 and degrees, and they have a water break. I'm like, wow, they're having a water break. I would love to play in 75-degree weather, with a water break. We may get a water break if it's 92 or something, but it is a different experience, I'm sure, than up north.
Yeah, I think that's another one of those kind of dynamics, like earlier, like balancing club versus in high school at the same time, versus just your environment that you're in, makes a huge kind of impact on all those types of things. I apologize about that. Some darn technology.
No, hey, that's the field that I'm in.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah. I'm a computer consultant by day.
Okay, cool.
So
So you would gladly say goodbye to the world of technology and become a full-time coach?
definitely, in a heartbeat. If I could, if it would pay my bills, definitely.
Yeah, but like we were saying before I had to cut you off, uh, yeah, it's been really, really cool for me to hear like I said, you're the third person in a row that's shared a story about their father that was a coach and then passed away, and then getting texts, emails. Like, this one was really, really cool that they literally showed up to, with a plaque and stuff. Like, that just, I think it just speaks to the impact that we can have as coaches and what have you. And clearly his jumping in both feet into coaching when you were younger has made a huge impact on where you're at now.
Definitely. I don't know what I would be doing if he hadn't have started, wanting to coach, because it has been truly a journey for me. Um, and when I was coaching the girls and the boys at the same time, and they were still young, 7, 8, we did have to move away to a different city, about 45 minutes away. And I contemplated, like, am I still going to be able to coach them at that distance? But when I looked at it, and I thought about, my dad coaching me and the impact he had, I thought, I want to finish what I started with these girls. I have to finish it. I want to see this whole thing through till they graduate. And so I talked to my wife and said, I'm going to still coach. And so it was a lot on her because she was the one that had to bring the kids to 40-minute away practice
Yeah.
fields, whereas I could just come from the office from work, and which was a little bit closer than the home. And so 3-4 days a week she's going back and forth with the kids, but we made it work. And I'm still coaching most of those same girls. And yeah, we've lost a couple on the way. We've gained a lot of talent, and we just have a successful team, and it's been great.
That's so cool. I love the dynamic between you and your wife because it seems like you have a really good kind of like understanding of like if I'm going to do this, there's going to be like it's kind of a give and take type thing, and it sounds really cool to be supportive from her end, um, and also knowing that the impact that you're going to make on your kids' lives is going to be so beneficial.
Sure. And she realizes that as well. She sees the impact that I can have on them, and she knows how I am when it comes to coaching. She knows how it makes me feel, and what it fulfills in me to just do that, and instill the passion that I have for the game of soccer into these players, because I want them to fall in love with the game just like I am in love with the game.
It was cool too because I always check out the profiles of guests and stuff. So I was kind of going through your Facebook page, and I was like, man, where is it Valkyrie? Is that right?
Valkyrie. Uh-huh.
Valkyrie, and I was like, "Where is this place?" And I kept looking, and I'm like, "I don't know where this is." So it was really cool to hear Houston because I just talked with Hector Cano, was one of my guests. He's in Western Texas, down by the Mexican border.
Hmm.
And then I just talked with Joe Janner last couple weeks ago, and he's with FC Dallas East Texas, so he's on there. So I'm like, man, I'm crushing Texas right now. Uh,
Yeah.
and he had just gone through the whole thing. He's like, dude, this ice and stuff came through, and we don't have snow plows, we don't have de-icer, we don't have any of the salt, we don't have any of that stuff. So we just had to like let nature take care of things to fix it.
Yeah, as I said, it was a different experience. I was trying to figure, okay, I gotta cover pipes and cover this and cover that, and it was different. It was a new experience. I hope we don't have to go through that again. Especially, we were only down without power for about 38 hours. I know there was others that were down for even longer than that. And having 5 kids in a house without power for that long, that kind of that could, but it was good family time.
I was going to say, what was that experience for the kiddos? Were they running around outside and stuff, or was it more just it's too cold, I'm going out?
They tried to run outside as long as they could and play in the little snow we had, and build the smallest snowman I've ever seen. But yeah, they were able to at least get out there and have fun, and get off the electronics for a while, and actually talk to each other.
Kind of that kind of quarantine-ish feel. What is the impact of COVID right now on on your club type thing? Are there restrictions, or I mean, is it pretty much wear a mask to and from practice, or what's kind of the thing right now?
Sure, it's kind of laxed. That's how I guess Texas is kind of opening it up now. But when we started back in August, or actually July, I wasn't sure if we were going to even be able to form a club team. I didn't know if we were going to even have a season. It was kind of uncertain times. So when I started pinging the parents saying, hey, who's going to play in this season? I got positive responses, but then I got a few that didn't want to return, just wanted to wait it out. So when all said and done, I had 11 players. I had 9 returning and 2 new players. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, I have 11. I have enough. I can make it work if we need to. Um, and what ended up happening was our sister team, and I call them our sister team because they're a couple years younger than us. Um, they practice on the same field as us, and we scrimmage from time to time. They only had 10 players returning. So what we did was, I took 7 of their players and had a roster of 18. So now I have a full squad, but now we're just trying to see if we are going to play, have a fall season. And then it was a matter of where we're going to practice. And that was a tough thing because our practice fields are ran by the county, and the county had everything closed down and they weren't allowing anybody to practice. So it was a matter of looking to see where we could practice, if it was a patch of grass, a community field. So we asked around, and thankfully some of my parents had connections with another club close by, and they allowed us to use their practice fields free of charge. And so now we had a practice field, and then we had a season, so we were set, and it was great.
I love the fact that 2 coaches were able to kind of combine their teams together. It wasn't like, oh no, these are my 10 girls. You can't have those 10, or and what have you. We've kind of talked about a little bit, just that kind of like, no, this is my group. You can't come in, and you were like, look, if we have an opportunity to play, let's create an opportunity for as many of these girls to get out there and play in the fall. So I think it's refreshing to hear that they were like, yeah, here, I've got 10. I clearly don't have 11 to play. So I can't just tell these 10 not to play. So I'm going to let you kind of take over a majority of them, which I think is really cool.
Sure, and yeah, it was definitely a blessing to have them come over and join the team. And they weren't worried. The parents weren't worried about playing older because, like I said, they're 2006 and 2007 and playing against 2004 players. But like I said, they've held their own. They've developed. They've learned, and like I said, we're sitting in first place at the moment. So it's been a fun, club season this year. It's one of the funnest that I've ever been a part of, because of that dynamic. Because coming together with 2 separate teams and getting them on the same page with the same mindset and to that goal. And what I told them before the season started was, this is our goal. We want to finish in first place. This is what we're setting our sets to. And I know it's kind of like a cliche, but I really felt that we had that opportunity to do that this season. And I said, this is what it's going to take. And so let's get there. And, here we are.
The cool thing too is, like, always keep harping back to earlier things where you had boys and girls that practice together. So that was kind of, I don't know what you call it, abnormal. Like you said, it was always girls versus girls, and the boys are here. Now you've got a group of like 04s down to 07s. What a drastic kind of change in age. And I know physically the differences in 2 to 3 years can be pretty dynamic and large. And I think it's cool again because of it not being normal. It's causing them to be challenged a little bit more, which is really good for them. And I think it's probably challenged you a little bit as a coach as well in both situations.
Sure, because it is a physicality at times, and it's a broad range of skill levels at also, because some have been playing 3-4 years longer than the
Mhm.
others. But the way I look at it is iron sharpens iron. So when they come together on the practice field and they're training against each other, one person has to step up and challenge the other person, and vice versa. And then at some point, they're both challenging each other and striving to get better. And as one gets better, the other one gets better, and vice versa. So it's been fun. And I tried to create practice sessions that will allow that type of challenge for both of them. Try to keep it as game like as possible, so they're constantly having that same energy level that they would face in a game against opponents that are going 110%. If we're just going slowly at practice, then we're never going to get better that way.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Like if it's, they always hear about it has to be harder in practice than the games, kind of thing,
Sure.
to prepare you. What were so like I'm at the D level in terms of my license. What are some of the, what would you, if you were trying to sell it to me? You sound like you had a really good or experience with the C course. What were some of the things that you felt like were pros or great things that you took away from that experience?
So the main thing was 10 days. It was, I believe, 10 days, mm, basically living with other coaches. You know, that's what I love. I mean, it was just soccer talk 24/7. I mean, we'd go to lunch, it's talk, we're talking coaching and soccer. We go to dinner, talking coaches. Talk. I mean, it was just so. I mean, I would call my wife and say, I'm just talking with people from all over the country, and then there were some that had were from England that were now living in the States, and they're joining the course, and now I'm getting an English perspective of soccer, and it just was blowing my mind, and I was just learning so much and gaining so many different perspectives. That kind of collaboration was what I took out of it, the most. But at the same time, then you go into the actual training and learning phase of it, and it was again, mind opening for me, and gave me a different perspective of how I can tailor my training sessions to, just as simple as basically, okay, look at game film, see what the trends are, what the weaknesses are, what's going on with your team that's failing you, and then go correct practice. And this is how you can tailor your practice to correct that. And I'm like, it's just a simple concept, but I never looked at it that way. Like, yeah, we see things in a game when we're coaching, like, oh, we need to work on this in practice. We need to work on that practice. But, they kind of defined how you do that, the proper steps to kind of create the problem and then create the solution at the same time. And that's what I brought back to my team.
I've heard similar things from those that have gone to like the United Soccer Coaches like conference, early in January, um, where they said, yeah, the presentations are awesome, but it's the going out for lunch or going to grab a drink and you sit there and like you said, you just are spewing and talking soccer and you get to hear different inputs and what have you. And that's so cool that the idea of like being on a campus, it sounds like, and just being surrounded by soccer, just passion the whole time and everybody's just talking and talking and talking. It's so cool because you're constantly just picking like, oh, I never thought about that. Or like you said, to get input from someone who grew up over in England and where it's an actual religion, um, and get their input and stuff is huge. And I love the idea that you took away from the course, the idea of like, I know what the problem is. That's one thing to identify it, but it's another thing to be able to create what you called a solution, which I think is dynamite way of kind of like talking about it. So many of us can point like, oh, that player struggles in this. Well, that's cool, but now it's the coaching side. Can you do to help create that and improve it?
Yeah, correct. And it just gives you a different perspective of looking at the game, and then going back to the training grounds and resolving it, and then trying to see if, okay, now in the next game, did we fix that problem or are we still having it? And it's just you just keep going over and over until you get it right, and then you move on to the next thing, that or the next breakdown. And you just keep building. It's kind of like the way I tailor my practices is, I try to set a theme. This is what the theme of the season is. This is what we're going to base everything around, and then we just go with little themes here and there. For instance, this season it was possession-based soccer. I wanted to stick with possession-based. I wanted to just keep the ball, maintain the ball as best we can while we're moving around, and then with that, the sub themes were kind of like playing out from the back. Okay, we're going to focus, and for a whole month that's what we focused on, playing out from the back. And we got that down. And then, okay, now I can move on to this piece. But until we could get that, I wasn't moving on from that. And so I just try to, pick a piece and then just layer on layer on top of that. So that then we can eventually get the whole, by the end of the season, hopefully we have the whole thing completed.
In order to take a month, that has to take quite a bit of patience on your end. everybody wants that, like, I need it now. Like, we got to go. Let's move. And everybody just kind of like, Monday we did this. We're going to go into something different Tuesday. And I love the idea that, no, we're going to focus and we're becoming really good at this. And then, like you said, a great kind of metaphor of layering it on there. I think it's cool because we're so quick to like, we got to get everything in. And you're like, look, all that stuff will happen, but there's a process to what I've got going on.
Yeah, and you know, when I start trying to figure out what we're gonna do, my process is kind of chaotic, but it seems to all work out. I'm not a coach that can write down, my training sessions before or weeks before. I mean, I'll think of them. I think, okay, this is what I need to work on. What, from a player's perspective, what can I do to bring that topic out? What kind of drills would I run or would I want to run that will bring that out? And sometimes they don't work like they have in my mind. I see a vision. I'll wake up one day, I'm like, oh, we can do this, and it doesn't. It flaws. Okay, we're changing that. We're moving on to something else. But for the most part, it's just, yeah, sticking to that topic, sticking to that theme, and the team knows it. The team knows what we're doing, so that when we do go to the game, they understand what's expected of them, how we're going to play. And then if something happens where a player doesn't show up and I have to put them in a different position, they understand that role and their responsibility of the other player because they've seen it so many times, because this is how we play. And so it helps with the fluidity of it and the cohesiveness of the team.
It sounds like you do a lot of kind of self-reflecting after trainings, during training, before, like you're constantly at, like you just said, I ask myself, what's going to help them? And then I love the other thing that you said where you're like if it isn't working, like in my head, it looked like what I thought we were going to get out of it and we're not. Let's scratch it and we move on, which I think is another cool thing for the girls to see. Like, look, we can have all these great plans, but when we start doing it, there are times where things aren't going to work out. And it's okay to be like, let's try something different or let's tweak it or whatever, which I think is really cool to do in sort of the reflecting side of things and being able to say, not getting the job done like I was hoping.
Sure. I mean, I'll see it at practice. Like, okay, I'm not getting that topic out. It's like the girls or maybe they're confused, or I didn't explain it good enough, or it's just a dumb drill that, just scratch it. And then I'll just go back to something else that we've done that has a similar topic, or, to fall back on. And then I'll regroup while they're on the water break and figure the next thing out. But for the most part, it's all my practices are, more or less, focused on one thing, so I can pick and pull from different things that I've done in the past, so that it all still goes together.
I love it. I love it. Brian, man, I do. I really appreciate you taking the time and dealing with the interruptions and all that stuff in the middle. But I'll be putting this together. I posted on YouTube and I put it on Anchor. It's like just a podcast thing that you can listen to. So once I get all that
Sure.
stuff, and I'll look you up on Twitter because I don't think I'm connected to you there. So now I know how to find you. And what have I'm excited to hear how if your team continues the rise. Because if they move on to, I think you said like state league.
State classic league, yes.
Yeah, so that would start in the coming fall.
Correct. If we get promoted, the top two teams get promoted up there, and yeah, that would start in the fall. And then we'd be playing. There's a wide range of teams. We'd be playing not just in the Houston area, but in the San Antonio and the Austin, Dallas area as well.
I was just going to ask. Like, it sounds like when it's state league, you're talking we're all over Texas here.
Correct. At least the southern part of Texas. But yeah, it's been a journey because we started Division 3, and then we just slowly move up, Division 2, and then when I feel, hey, we're ready to go Division 1, let's do it. And now hopefully we can move up to the next league and just keep getting promoted.
The promotion relegation that people are dying for here in the
Right.
U.S. But I feel like we have it at the youth level. It's in some form, and it makes it kind of fun. Like you're constantly watching the table and all that stuff. But uh, Brian, this has been a sweet conversation. If people want to connect with you and follow up on everything there, or even if maybe because I'll be throwing this out there. Hopefully, maybe a college coach hears and says, "Hey, I love what Brian's talking about. Maybe he'd be a great asset to our program or staff." What's a great way to get in contact with you?
The best way, I have a Twitter account. It's Coach Hurley 6, the number 6 at the end. Or you can reach me by email at Brian, Brian, at valkyriesoccer.com.
So I will wrap this thing up. I'll put all that information in the episode notes. I really appreciate Brian taking the time to chat with me. This is Kieran with the Coach's Corner Chats, and I'm out. Peace.